Get out of my house. My son spat those words at me. In the house I built with 35 years of sweat and grease. He thought he was taking my legacy. He didn't realize he was just borrowing the keys to a kingdom he couldn't unlock. Axle grease and burnt coffee. That smell was home. For 35 years I breathed that air, lived in that scent. I built Harris & Son Auto Repair from dirt. Just a rented bay and a toolbox full of dreams. Back then my hands were smooth. My back didn't scream every morning. I was young, hungry. I wanted something solid, something that would last longer than I would. The son in the name was a promise to Margaret, my wife. Ethan was our firstborn. I remember holding him, this tiny, fragile thing. I remember holding him, this tiny, fragile thing. A terrifying wave of responsibility crashed over me. I swore I'd give him everything I never had. Stability, security, a legacy carved out of steel. I thought that legacy was secure. I thought my family was safe. I was so wrong. If you're listening to this story, subscribe to the channel and let me know where you're watching from. It helps to know someone is hearing this. It helps to know I'm not completely alone. It was a Sunday evening, November. The air outside was cold, smelling of fallen leaves and distant wood smoke. We were in the house on Elm Street, the house the shop paid for. It was a good house, solid, warm. Margaret loved it here. She planted the rose bushes out front. They still bloom every summer, vibrant bursts of red and yellow. 5 years after she was gone, they were the only color left, a reminder of the life we built, a life that was about to be torn down. I was in my armchair, the old leather one, perfectly worn. I tried to read the newspaper, but the air in the room felt thin, fragile, like ice about to crack. The silence in the house was too loud. Ethan and his wife, Chloe, sat opposite me, married 3 years. In those 3 years, I watched my son disappear. The easygoing boy who loved engines, who learned the trade by my side, was gone, replaced by this tense, ambitious stranger. Ethan wore expensive suits that never fit right, like a kid playing dress-up. He kept checking his watch, a nervous twitch in his jaw. He looked everywhere but at me. Chloe sat beside him, poised, elegant, beautiful, but sharp, like broken glass. She was looking around my living room. Her lip curled slightly, disgusted. She hated this house. She called it dated. She called my life small, and tonight they were here to make it smaller. The tension built. Chloe adjusted her skirt. Ethan cleared his throat. The air felt heavy. Charged. I knew what was coming. I just didn't know how brutal it would be. David, Chloe began. Her voice was smooth, precise, like a lawyer delivering an opening statement. She crossed her legs. The sound of her expensive stockings whispered in the quiet room. We need to discuss the future. I lowered the newspaper, folded it carefully. Buying time. My heart started a slow, heavy thud against my ribs. I knew this conversation. Hints about retirement. Suggestions about modernizing. But tonight was different. There was a hardness in Ethan's eyes, a finality. What about the future, Chloe? I asked. I tried to keep my voice even. Ethan cut in, blunt. It's time for you to retire, Dad. He was staring at the fireplace, at the photo of Margaret on the mantel. It felt like a betrayal of her memory, too. You've worked hard, he continued, his voice flat. You deserve a rest. I'm ready to take over. He paused. It's my time. My time. The words hung in the air, cold and sharp, as if my time was over, as if I was already obsolete. I appreciate the concern, Ethan, I said. I leaned forward. The leather chair creaked, but I'm only 62. I'm not ready to be put out to pasture. I tried to reason with him. And frankly, you still have a lot to learn. Running the shop isn't just about the bottom line. It's about the people, the trust we've built over decades. You can't buy that, Ethan scoffed. A harsh, ugly sound. The trust? Dad, the shop is stagnant. He stood up, pacing the room. His expensive shoes clicked on the hardwood floor. Margaret used to polish. It's dying. Dying? My shop? The shop that paid for that suit he was wearing? You're still doing things the way you did in the 90s, he accused. You refuse to adapt. I have plans.
Big plans. What plans?
I asked, dreading the answer. Expansion. Franchising. I've been talking to a consultant, Mr. Sterling, he said, his voice rising with excitement. He sees the potential. We're sitting on a potential empire. But I can't build it with you constantly undermining me. Undermining him? The word stung like a hornet. Mr. Sterling, a name I didn't know. A stranger guiding my son's ambition. I'm not undermining you, Ethan. I'm trying to guide you, I argued, my voice rising now too. Franchising takes massive capital. Experience you don't have. Risks I'm not willing to take with our employees' livelihoods. Tom, Mike, Jerry, these men have families. Chloe leaned in. Her eyes were sharp, focused. Her perfume, expensive and overwhelming, filled the space between us like a toxic cloud. I knew the next words out of her mouth would change everything. Which is exactly why we need full control, David, she said, her voice dropping, cold and calculated. We need the assets to leverage the capital. Sterling says the banks won't lend us the money we need, as long as you're still in the picture. Full control. The words hit me hard. But that wasn't the worst part. The real betrayal was still waiting in the shadows. We need control of the business, she continued, smooth and cold, and control of this house. The air in the room vanished. The silence stretched, taut, brittle. I looked at Ethan. He stared at the floor, a coward. You want the house too? I whispered. This house? Where he took his first steps? Where Margaret and I dreamed? Where she took her last breath? It's just an asset, David, Chloe said dismissively. She waved a hand. Her diamond ring flashed. A ring I suspected the shop had paid for. And it's too big for you. You rattle around in here like a ghost. A ghost in my own home. The insult was deliberate, cruel. We need space to entertain, she continued, her tone dripping with disdain. To build our image, a successful businessman needs a successful home. We need to impress investors. Like Mr. Sterling, she smiled, a cold, empty smile. We're prepared to help you find a nice, manageable apartment. A retirement community, maybe. Something more suitable. Suitable, like old furniture, to be stored away, forgotten, discarded. I felt a cold dread spreading through my veins. They had planned this ambush. I looked at my son, my boy, the child I held hours after he was born, the teenager I bailed out of trouble, the young man I stood beside on his wedding day. I searched his face, for regret, for any flicker of the love I knew must be in there. There was nothing. Only cold ambition, a reflection of Chloe's greed. He was hollow, empty. I built this life, Ethan, I said. My voice trembled. Anger and profound sadness mixed together. Margaret and I, we sacrificed everything for you. Skipped vacations. Worked 14-hour days. Poured every penny back into the shop. Back into this family. I stood up to face him, my legs shaking slightly. And now, you want to push me out? To throw me away like yesterday's trash? Ethan's face flushed red. The mask of calm control slipped. The raw, ugly entitlement underneath boiled over. It was shocking to see. Sacrifice? Don't talk to me about sacrifice, he shouted. He stepped towards me, looming over me. I'm tired of waiting. I'm tired of living in your shadow. I'm tired of begging for scraps. His voice cracked with a rage I had never heard before. It was terrifying. This is my inheritance, and I want it now. It's an inheritance, Ethan, not a hostile takeover, I said, keeping my ground. We were the same height, but he felt like a dangerous stranger. It's happening, Dad, he spat. His voice dripped with venom. We've given you chances to do this the easy way, but you're too stubborn, too selfish. Selfish? Me? Everything I did for him. For Sarah. For Margaret. You only care about your precious shop, he accused. He jabbed a finger at my chest. You never cared about me. That hit me harder than any punch. He pointed a shaking finger towards the front door. The wind rattled the windows. A cold counterpoint to the heat in the room. If you won't support me, if you won't step aside, then you can leave, he ordered. Right now, I mean it. I don't want you here. I stared at him. The world seemed to tilt on its axis. This couldn't be happening. Not in my house. This is my home, I whispered. The words felt hollow, empty. His response was immediate, brutal, final. Get out of my house. We're not talking to each other anymore. The words hit me like a physical blow, sucked the air out of my lungs. I stumbled back slightly. I looked at Chloe. She was smiling, a small triumphant smile. She had won. She had twisted my son into this unrecognizable shape. She was the puppet master, and he was her wooden doll. My world shattered. The foundation I built my life upon cracked, crumbled. I looked at Ethan, and I realized, with terrifying clarity, that my son was gone. I didn't fight. I didn't argue. I didn't beg. The fight drained out of me, replaced by a cold, heavy numbness. He made his choice. Now I had to make mine. I looked him straight in the eye. Okay. The single word seemed to deflate him. He expected a battle, tears, maybe a heart attack. He wasn't expecting acceptance. He wasn't expecting the silence. Okay, he repeated, confused, mocking. Okay, I said again. My voice was steady. My hands were shaking so badly I had to grip the back of the armchair to keep them still. I walked past them, through the living room, up the stairs, to my bedroom. The room smelled faintly of Margaret's lavender perfume, a memory of a time when life was good, simple. I pulled an old duffel bag from the closet. My movements were mechanical, automatic. I packed shirts, my blood pressure medication, the framed photo of Margaret and me on our wedding day. I couldn't leave that behind. I walked back downstairs. Ethan and Chloe hadn't moved. They watched me like hawks, guarding their prize, triumph and disbelief on their faces. They couldn't believe it was this easy. As I reached the front door, Ethan called out, his arrogance returning. Don't expect any help when you realize how expensive the real world is. You won't last a week. I didn't look back. I opened the door, stepped out into the cold November night. The door closed behind me. A heavy, final click. It sounded like a coffin nail being hammered home. I drove without thinking. Streetlights blurred. Tears finally escaped. Hot and stinging. I ended up at Sarah's apartment. Sarah, my daughter, 2 years younger than Ethan. Everything he wasn't. Steady, kind, practical. A nurse, grounded in reality. She had Margaret's eyes, her quiet strength. Her apartment was small, cluttered with books and plants. But it was warm, safe. She opened the door. Her smile faded instantly. Dad, what's wrong? It's late. I walked inside. The weight of the past few hours crashed down on me. I collapsed onto her small sofa. The duffel bag dropped to the floor, a dull thud. He kicked me out, Sarah, I said. My voice cracked for the first time. The pain was sharp, overwhelming. Ethan told me to get out of the house. I took a shaky breath. He and Chloe, they want everything. The shop, the house. They said I was finished. Sarah stared at me, pale with shock. What? Dad, that's insane. That's your house. Your shop. You can't do that. Legally, he can't just throw you out. He did it, I said. I buried my face in my hands. The smell of grease, ingrained in my skin, was the only familiar thing left in my life. Sarah was furious. She paced the small living room, her hands clenched into fists. She wanted to drive over there. Confront Ethan. Shake some sense into him. Call the police. But I stopped her. No, honey, it won't help. He's not listening. He's not the brother you remember. I looked at her, fear gripping my heart. He's blinded by greed. Chloe is fueling the fire. If you go there, he'll just push you away too. I can't lose you both. I can't. I stayed on Sarah's couch. The first few days were a blur. Pain. Confusion. I felt unmoored. Adrift. I woke up at 5 a.m., my body clock still attuned to the rhythm of the shop, only to realize there was nowhere to go, no engines to fix, no customers to help. I felt useless. Obsolete. A ghost, just like Chloe said. A ghost in my own life. While I licked my wounds, Ethan and Chloe were busy dismantling my legacy, and they were doing it faster than I could have imagined. They weren't just taking over. They were erasing me. I heard about it from Tom, my head mechanic, my best friend. Tom had been with me for 25 years. Loyal, honest, the best mechanic I knew. He started calling me every evening, his voice low, secretive. He was calling from a payphone down the street from the shop. Afraid of being overheard. It's a disaster, David, Tom said on the third day, his voice heavy with worry. They came in Monday morning like they owned the place. Which I guess they think they do, he said. Treating us like servants. Chloe took over your office. Ordered all new furniture. Expensive stuff. Italian leather. Said the place needed a modern touch. Then the blow landed. The tension built. I braced for the impact. And David, she threw out your desk. I saw them haul it to the dumpster. My desk. The old wooden desk. I bought second-hand when I first opened the shop. Scarred. Stained. A roadmap of my life's work. Margaret used to joke it was held together by sawdust and prayers. The thought of it in a dumpster felt like a physical erasure of my past. A deeper betrayal. My history meant nothing to them. And Ethan? I asked, dreading the answer. He's playing the big shot, Tom said, disgust clear in his voice. Talking about the expansion. This franchise deal, he's got some slick consultant hanging around named Sterling. I wear shinier suits than Ethan. Smells like cheap cologne and greed. Mr. Sterling, the architect of their grand vision, the shadow behind the throne. He's promising everyone raises he can't afford, Tom continued.
And David, he bought a car, a brand new sports car, bright red, parked it right in the front. Showing off. How did he pay for it? I asked, my stomach tightening. I knew the answer before Tom spoke. A check, Tom confirmed. From the business account. The business account. For payroll, for parts. Not a personal piggy bank. They weren't just spending money. They were burning it. They were burning it. Shit, I to know how bad it was, but I was locked out of the accounts. Helpless. Then Tom told me something that made my blood run cold. It wasn't just the money, it was the people. The human cost of Ethan's ambition was starting to pile up. He fired Jake, Tom said, his voice low and angry. Jake, a young mechanic. Talented kid, a little rough around the edges, but he had heart. He was supporting his sick mother. Why? I demanded. Jake questioned one of the new policies Sterling implemented. Tom explained. Ethan didn't even argue. He just fired him on the spot. Told him he wasn't a good fit for the new Harris Auto. Jake was gone. Just like that, I felt a wave of guilt. I brought Ethan into this business. This was on me. The next evening, the news was worse. The first sign their grand vision was built on sand. And it involved the one thing I never compromised on, safety. He tried to cut corners on Mrs. Gable's brakes, Tom told me. Mrs. Gable, an elderly widow, a customer for 30 years. Sweet lady, always brought us cookies at Christmas. He ordered cheap, substandard parts, knockoffs, dangerous junk. Some online supplier Sterling recommended. My blood boiled. Cheap brakes on Mrs. Gable's car? I refused to install them, David, Tom said, his voice shaking with anger. I told him it was dangerous. Mrs. Gable drives her grandchildren in that car. What did he do? I asked, gripping the phone tighter. He lost it. We were face to face on the shop floor. Tom recounted the scene. I could picture it vividly. Ethan, red-faced, shouting, You're stuck in the past, Tom. Just like my father. This is how modern business works. Efficiency. Profit margins. Sterling says we need to cut costs by 20%. Tom, standing his ground, this is about safety, Ethan. Not profit. We don't put people's lives at risk to save a few bucks. Ethan delivered the ultimatum. If you don't like the new management style, you can leave. I'll replace you in a heartbeat. You threatened to fire me, David. Me? Tom's voice thickened with emotion. The attack on Tom was devastating. He was the heart of the shop. My right hand. Ethan wasn't just being disrespectful. He was endangering customers. Destroying the integrity of the business. I almost walked out, Tom admitted, but I stayed. For you. I figured someone needed to keep an eye on things. To protect the shop. But David, I don't know how much longer I can last. It's toxic here. The foundation of trust and quality I built was crumbling. Fast.
Ethan wasn't just stealing my business. He was destroying my name, and that was something I couldn't forgive. Ethan and Chloe were living high on the hog, spending money they didn't have, convinced they were on the verge of a massive fortune. They hosted lavish parties at the house, my house, showing off their newfound wealth. I heard about the parties from Mrs. Vance, Eleanor Vance. She lived next door to me on Elm Street for 20 years. A good friend of Margaret. I ran into her at the grocery store near Sarah's apartment. She looked tired, worried. "David, I'm so sorry about what happened," she said, putting a hand on my arm. "It's just awful." "Thank you, Eleanor," I said, touched by her concern. "Those parties they're having," she continued, lowering her voice. "Loud music until all hours, cars parked all over the street, strangers coming and going. It's not the same neighborhood anymore, David. It feels cold." She hesitated. "And that Chloe—" Margaret always said she had a cold heart. I'm starting to see what she meant. She was yelling at the caterers last night. Horrible language. Margaret knew. She always knew people's true character. I should have listened. Sarah saw it firsthand. She finally went to the house to pick up some of Margaret's jewelry I had left behind. I couldn't bear to go back myself. The thought of seeing that house corrupted made me sick to my stomach. "They were drunk, Dad," she told me when she returned. Her voice shook with anger, disgust. It was barely noon, drinking champagne. The house was a mess. Empty bottles everywhere. Cigarette burns on the furniture. "That Mr. Sterling was there," she continued, laughing like a hyena. "He kept calling Ethan the next big thing." She took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. "Chloe was bragging about the franchise deal, saying they were going to be millionaires by the end of the year, talking about buying a yacht." Then she looked at me, her eyes filled with pain. The tension built. I knew this was going to hurt. She was wearing Mom's necklace, Dad, flaunting it. The impact was a knife to the heart, the disrespect to Margaret's memory. The necklace I saved for a year to buy Margaret for our 10th anniversary, trampling on everything sacred. It fueled a cold, simmering rage in me, a resolve I hadn't felt before. "And Ethan?" I asked, my voice tight. "He just stood there, nodding like a puppet," Sarah said, tears welling up. "He looks terrible, Dad. Exhausted. But when I tried to talk to him, to reason with him, he shut me down." She recounted their argument. Sarah, trying to reason with him. "Ethan, this is wrong. You're destroying everything Dad built. Everything Mom loved." Ethan, cold and dismissive. "You're just jealous of my success, Sarah. You always resented that I was the one destined to take over the business." The rift was deepening. Ethan was isolating himself, pushing away the only family he had left. "He told me if I didn't support him, I should stay away," Sarah finished, her voice barely a whisper. "He chose her and Sterling over his family." I felt a profound sense of loss. The family Margaret nurtured so carefully was fractured, perhaps beyond repair, and it was all happening so fast because of greed. If this story has your heart racing, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe. Every click helps us keep sharing stories that deserve to be heard, because what happened next changed everything. The situation escalated quickly. The supplier are ones I worked with for decades. Trust and a handshake. That's how we did business. They were spooked. My sudden absence, Ethan's aggressive demands. Mr. Sterling's shady reputation was spreading through the industry. They started refusing to extend credit. "They want payment up front, David," Tom said on the 5th day. His voice was strained. "All of them. Word travels fast. They know something is wrong. They don't trust the new management." The lifeline of credit was cut off. The shop was paralyzed. "We don't have the cash flow for that," Tom continued. "The business account is nearly empty. Ethan is bouncing checks all over town." Then Tom mentioned something that raised the stakes even higher. A new threat emerged from the chaos. "David, there was a police officer here today," Tom said, his voice dropping to a whisper. "Detective Miller, asking questions about the bounced checks. He spoke to Ethan and Sterling in the office for an hour." "What did he say?" I asked, my heart pounding. "I couldn't hear everything," Tom admitted, "but I heard the word fraud." Miller said bouncing checks of this magnitude could be considered fraud. Fraud. The word hit me like a ton of bricks. Ethan wasn't just ruining the business. He was risking jail time. The imminent financial collapse was terrifying. Not just for the business, for the employees, their livelihoods. I felt responsible. Ethan was playing Monopoly with real people's lives, and he was losing badly. The shop was paralyzed. Cars sat on the lifts, half repaired, waiting for parts. Customers were angry, demanding refunds, threatening to sue. The reputation I spent a lifetime building was dissolving in days. Then the biggest blow came. Our biggest client, the local taxi company. The fleet contract was nearly 40% of our revenue. Martinez came by the shop today, Tom told me that evening. His voice, grim. He confronted Ethan. It was brutal, David. Tom recounted the scene. Mr. Martinez, a shrewd businessman who valued trust, standing in the middle of the shop floor. I built my business on reliability, Mr. Harris, Martinez said, his voice booming. Your father understood that. You do not. The work you've done recently is substandard, dangerous. Ethan tried to smooth talk him, promising discounts, free services. Sterling tried to intervene, flashing his slick smile. Martinez wasn't buying it. He looked at Ethan with pure contempt. You are a disgrace to your father's name, he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. I built my business on trust. And I do not trust you. They're gone, David, Tom confirmed. The contract is pulled. The shop was dying, and despite my anger and betrayal, I felt a profound sadness. I couldn't let my legacy be destroyed. Not like this. I couldn't let Margaret's memory be tarnished. Ethan panicked. His grand vision was collapsing. Mr. Sterling was getting nervous, demanding his consultant fees. The threat of fraud charges loomed large. Detective Miller was circling like a shark. He went to the bank. He needed a loan. A big one. The $500,000 loan Chloe and Sterling demanded to cover the costs. The expansion. The looming legal fees. I knew what was going to happen. I just didn't know how devastating the realization would be. For him, the twist came crashing down on them on the 6th day. A twist that I myself had almost forgotten. A secret hidden in plain sight. A safety net Margaret and I had woven years ago. A dusty old secret hidden in a filing cabinet in my lawyer's office. Ethan called the bank manager, Mr. Henderson. He handled my accounts for years. A formal man, cautious. By the book, Ethan confidently requested the loan, using the shop and the house as collateral. He thought he held all the cards. Mr. Henderson rejected the application. Flat out. The reason? Ethan Harris didn't own the assets he was trying to leverage. Ethan thought he had inherited a kingdom. He didn't realize he was just a tenant playing dress-up in a borrowed crown. The truth was simple. Hidden in the paperwork, Margaret and I signed 15 years ago, when Margaret first got sick, when the cancer first reared its ugly head. We were terrified. Terrified of the medical bills. Terrified of what would happen to the kids if we lost everything. We were drowning in anxiety and fear. We thought we were going to lose her. We met with our lawyer, Mr. Abrams, a quiet, meticulous man, smart as a whip. He suggested a solution I didn't fully understand at the time, but Margaret insisted. She was always the smart one. An irrevocable trust. The house on Elm Street. The property the shop sat on. The business itself. Everything was transferred into that trust, protected from creditors, from lawsuits, and, as fate would have it, from the very people we were trying to protect. I was the primary trustee, but we also named a successor, someone reliable, someone we trusted implicitly, in case I became incapacitated, someone who shared our values. Sarah, Ethan and Chloe kicked me out of a house I didn't technically own. They took Hager a business that belonged to the trust. They had been spending money they had no legal right to access, bleeding the operating account dry. But the real assets, the core of the business, was safe. The vault was locked, and they didn't have the key. I had forgotten the details over the years. After Margaret recovered the first time, the trust faded into the background. A safety net we hoped we would never need, but it was there, solid, unbreakable. waiting. Margaret's foresight had saved us. Even from beyond the grave, she was protecting our family. The realization shattered their grand plans. The power dynamic shifted. Instantly, they were no longer the ambitious new owners. They were squatters, thieves who broke into the kingdom and found the vault empty. And the clock was ticking, loudly. The consequences piled up. Fast. The bank saw the unauthorized spending, the bounced checks, the potential fraud Detective Miller was investigating. They froze the remaining funds in the business account. The game was over. They weren't playing anymore. Chloe realized her dream lifestyle was evaporating. The yacht, the expensive clothes, the lavish parties. It was all gone. She turned on Ethan. Tom could hear the shouting through the thin walls of the office. Vicious, brutal, the sound of their perfect partnership, tearing itself apart. "You told me everything was in your name," she screamed. The sound of breaking glass echoed from the office. Tom thought it was the expensive new coffee machine. "You incompetent fool." Then came the truth, the ugly truth behind their marriage. "I didn't marry you to be poor," she yelled, her voice shrill, hysterical. "I married for security, for wealth. You promised me everything. It was never about love, it was always about money." I felt a strange mix of vindication and pity for Ethan. He had been manipulated, used, fooled. He had sacrificed his family for a woman who saw him as nothing more than a paycheck. A paycheck that had just bounced. Mr. Sterling vanished too. The moment the money dried up, the consultant disappeared. Sterling packed his briefcase and walked out. Tom told me. He didn't even say goodbye to Ethan. He just left, leaving Ethan to face the music alone. The shop was dying.
I struggled with the decision. The father part of me wanted to step in, to save Ethan from himself, to bail him out, fix his mess, to protect him from the pain I knew was coming. But I knew if I did that, he would never learn. He would always be weak, vulnerable to people like Chloe and Sterling.
He had to face the consequences. The hardest lessons are the most painful. I had to let him fall. I had to let him hit rock bottom. And I had to be there when he did. On the 7th day, a week since the confrontation. Silence from Ethan. Absolute. The calm before the final storm. It was Friday, payroll day. Tom called me in the morning, his voice trembling. "David, the bank locked the accounts. I can't access the funds. I have to pay the guys. Jake, the others. They have families. Rent is due. Mike's kid is sick." "I know, Tom," I said, my voice calm, steady. "Hang tight. It's almost over." I sat in Sarah's living room, staring out the window. Gray sky, waiting for the inevitable. The tension was unbearable. Every minute felt like an hour. At noon, my phone buzzed. Ethan's name flashed on the screen. The first beat of the storm. The call for help. I let it ring. It buzzed again. Immediately. And again. And again. I watched the missed calls pile up. 10 missed calls. 20 missed calls. 30. The messages started pouring in. Frantic. Desperate. "Dad, call me. Something's wrong with the bank. Dad, please. I need your help. I can't do this."
Detective Miller is calling me. Dad, please. Then the one that twisted my heart. Chloe left. Dad, she left me. Sarah watched me, her eyes wide with worry. Dad, please answer. He sounds broken. He is broken, Sarah, I said, my voice heavy. That's the point. Sometimes you have to break something down completely to rebuild it right. By the time the count reached 47 missed calls, the buzzing stopped. An hour later, a furious, desperate pounding on Sarah's apartment door. The second beat of the storm. The confrontation. I knew who it was. I stood up slowly, feeling every one of my 62 years, the aches in my back, the stiffness in my knees. I opened the door. Ethan stood there, wrecked, his expensive suit rumpled, stained. His tie was gone, his hair disheveled, eyes bloodshot, wild. The arrogance, the entitlement, the anger, all gone, replaced by sheer panic. Despair. He looked like a man drowning, searching for a lifeline. Dad, he choked out, his voice hoarse. Dad, you have to help me. Hello, Ethan, I said, calm,
steady, though my heart was breaking at the sight of him. He looked so lost, so young. I thought we weren't talking anymore. I didn't mean it, Dad. I swear I didn't mean it, he stammered. Tears streamed down his face. I was wrong, so wrong. I messed up. I messed up everything. What happened? I asked. Though I already knew, I needed to hear him say it. The bank froze the accounts. I can't make payroll. The suppliers are threatening to sue. The taxi company pulled their contract. He took a shaky breath, and the bank manager said, I don't own anything. He said, I don't own anything. He said, it's all in a trust. I don't understand. I thought it was mine.
He fell to his knees, right there in the hallway. The third beat of the storm. The surrender. A broken king in a borrowed kingdom. Please, Dad, save me, he begged, his voice raw with emotion. I'll do anything. Don't let me lose everything. The police, they're talking about fraud.
I can't go to jail. I looked down at my son, the boy I raised, the man who broke my heart. Pity surged, but also disappointment, deep, profound disappointment. He had thrown it all away for nothing. Where's Chloe? I asked, the question sharp, cold. And Mr. Sterling? Ethan flinched, shame written all over his face. She left this morning, when she found out about the trust. He wiped his face, leaving a streak of dirt. She packed her bags, said she didn't sign up for this, said I was useless to her. He looked up at me, his eyes hollow. She took the car. Dad, she took everything. Sterling is gone too. He wouldn't even return my calls. The irony was bitter, tasting like ash in my mouth. The woman who fueled his greed, the consultant who promised him an empire, abandoned him the moment the money disappeared, left him with nothing but ruins and debt. I sighed, heavy with the weight of the past week. Get up, Ethan. Come inside. I helped him up, led him into the living room. He sat on the couch, the same couch I slept on for the past week. Sobbing uncontrollably, Sarah watched him, sympathy and anger mixed on her face. She brought him water, didn't say a word. She was waiting for me to fix this. I waited. The silence stretched, filled with ghosts of the past, the harsh reality of the present. When the sobbing subsided, I laid it out, the terms of his surrender. I will save the shop, Ethan, I said, my voice firm. I will deal with the bank and the police, but I won't save you from the consequences of your actions. You made this mess. You are going to clean it up. Hope flickered in his desperate eyes. Anything, Dad. Anything. I'll sign it all back over to you. It's not that simple, I said. It was never yours to sign over. First, Sarah and I, as the trustees, are resuming full control. The business, the house. Effective immediately, he nodded eagerly. Second, you incurred significant debt. Unauthorized debt, I continued, my voice hardening, the bounced checks. The money you spent on the car, the furniture, the parties, that consultant. The operating account is empty. I leaned closer, letting the weight of my words sink in. The trust will cover the payroll, the essential costs. Keep the shop afloat, but the money you stole?
That's on you. You will repay the trust. Every penny.
His face fell. Reality crashed down. Repay? How? I have nothing. Chloe took it all. You are going to work, I said. Unwavering. At the shop, but not as the manager. You are going to start over. From the bottom. I let the words sink in. As a junior mechanic. Grease monkey. I pointed at him, my finger steady. You will report to Tom. He will train you. You will learn the trade properly, the way I should have taught you from the beginning. You will learn humility. You will learn respect. His eyes widened in shock. A junior mechanic? Dad, I can't. My reputation, my friends. You have no reputation, Ethan. I interrupted. Cold, you destroyed it. Now you have to rebuild it. I continued, laying out the new reality. You will earn a junior mechanic's wage. No more expensive suits. No more fancy titles. You will get your hands dirty, and you will work off your debt. He looked down, defeated. The fight gone. For how long? For as long as it takes, I said. And one more thing, the house. I am moving back in. You will move out. Rent a small apartment. Something you can afford on your new salary. I paused, letting the weight settle. This is your last chance, Ethan. You destroyed our family with your greed. Now you have to rebuild it with humility and hard work. If you mess this up, I warned, if you show any sign of entitlement or disrespect to Tom or the guys, you are out. For good. Do you understand? I understand, Dad, he whispered. Small, broken, thank you. Thank you. The road back was long, difficult. The next day, I went back to the shop. The atmosphere was grim, anxious. The shop floor a mess. Half-finished jobs. Disorganized tools. It looked like a war zone. When I walked in, a wave of relief washed over the shop. The guys stopped what they were doing. They looked at me, then at Ethan, then back at me. Ethan followed me. Humbled, dressed in an old overall I found. Tom rushed to me, hugged me, tears in his eyes. Welcome back, boss. Good to be back, Tom, I said, clapping him on the shoulder. First things first, call Jake. Tell him his job is waiting for him. Tom smiled, a real smile. Will do, boss. I looked around the shop. My shop. Let's get to work. We have a lot to do. I spent the next few months fixing the mess Ethan, Chloe, and Sterling created. Exhausting. Daunting. Sarah took over the finances. Untangling the web of debt. She was organized. Ruthless. Efficient. She was Margaret's daughter. Through and through. She met with Detective Miller. Explained the situation with the trust. The unauthorized access. The charges were dropped, but the damage to our reputation remained. We restored the credit terms. I apologized to the suppliers personally. We rebuilt the trust Ethan shattered. We even won back the taxi fleet contract. Mr. Martinez was relieved to see me back. He said he missed my terrible coffee. The shop started to breathe again. The familiar rhythm returned. Ethan struggled, swallowing his pride, accepting his new position. He made mistakes, got frustrated. He had to face the cold stares of the mechanics he mistreated, especially Jake. I remember one afternoon, about 3 months in. He was struggling with a complicated transmission memo, frustrated, covered in grease, his knuckles bleeding. He threw his wrench across the shop floor. It clattered loudly. Tom walked over to him, his face stern. Pick it up, he ordered. Ethan glared at him, the old arrogance flashing in his eyes. Who do you think you were talking to? Tom didn't blink. I'm the head mechanic. You're the junior mechanic? Now pick up your wrench and get back to work. Or you can clock out. For good. Ethan stared at him for a long moment. The whole shop was watching, waiting. Then slowly he bent down and picked up the wrench. He walked back to the car. He didn't say another word. There were days when the shame was too much. Days he wanted to quit, but he stayed. He listened to Tom. He apologized to Jake. He learned the engines. He got his hands dirty. Slowly, agonizingly slowly, the arrogant man in the expensive suit faded away, replaced by the grease-stained mechanic I recognized. He started to look like my son again. Chloe finalized the divorce a few months later. Ethan never heard from her again. We heard rumors that she and Mr. Sterling had moved on to their next victim, leaving Ethan to deal with the wreckage of his life. He was finally free of their poison. I moved back into the house on Elm Street. The silence was heavy, the rooms filled with ghosts of the past. I tended to Margaret's roses, the familiar routine a comfort in the quiet emptiness. One evening, about 2 years later, I was in my office, closing the books. The shop was thriving again. We recovered from the disaster. Ethan had paid off his debt to the trust. He was becoming a fine mechanic. Patient, meticulous, honest. Tom said he was a natural. A knock on the door. Dad, you got a minute? It was Ethan, holding a grease-stained rag, looking more like a man than ever before. His face leaner, marked by hard work, humility. His eyes were clear. Sure, Ethan, come in. He sat down opposite my desk, the old wooden desk, rescued from the storage room, refinished, back where it belonged. I just wanted to say, I'm sorry, he said. His voice thick with emotion, he looked me straight in the eye. Not flinching, not looking away. For everything. I was a fool. A greedy, entitled fool. I didn't realize what I had until I threw it all away. I betrayed you. I betrayed Mom's memory. I know, son, I said quietly. I know. You saved me, Dad, he continued. Tears streamed down his face. His voice strong. Not just from the debt, but from myself. From the man I was becoming. You taught me what it means to work hard, to earn your place. The value of family. He looked at the picture of Margaret on my desk. I miss Mom. I wish she could see me now. I hope I haven't disappointed her too much. I stood up, walked over to him, put my hand on his shoulder. The muscles hard, earned through honest labor. Your mother loved you, Ethan. She always saw the good in you, even when I couldn't. I paused, feeling the weight of the moment. She would be proud of the man you've become, and so am I. I hugged him, the first real hug in years. In that moment, the pain of the betrayal, the anger, the disappointment, faded away, replaced by a fragile, hard-earned hope. The victory was bittersweet. The scars remained. The memory of those dark days lingered. But my son was back. He had fallen hard and fast. But he got back up. I looked out the window at the sign. Harrison's Son Auto Repair. Fresh paint, bold letters. It wasn't just a name anymore. It was a legacy. Hard work, resilience, the enduring power of family. My son was finally home, and that was worth more than any fortune. Thanks for listening. Please rate our story in the comment. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe. Your support means a lot, because your time matters.